Hi, this is Timika Chambers, and you have just tuned into Create a Generational Love Cycle. And so, on this podcast, as you know, the name comes from what I think we all need to do, be a part of, and that is breaking the cycle of pain. But as you know, with anything, any habit that we want to break, we don't say the name of the habit. Like, I don't want to eat ice cream anymore, which probably would not be a habit that many would not like to break. But whatever it is that we want to do, for instance, I want to include 3 servings of fruit 3 days a week. You know, we focus on what it is that we want to do. And as probably in any family, there is something that continues to trickle into generations. And so if you don't know my story, the reason why I've just come so far from that little girl that saw her mother, the sad face of the mother, that tug of my heart when I was about 4 years old or younger. And I wanted to do something. And I reported that my father was abusing my mother. And my father, then I was on trial in my kitchen, and he was the judge. But he did not sentence me to self-doubt. He did not sentence me to anger towards him. He did not sentence me to really questioning the family concept, right? Because I sat in the middle of fear and anger in that kitchen of our Memphis apartment, and I didn't know what was going on at the time, a little 4-year-old girl. And I thought I was doing right. But when I went inward, so did some seeds of doubt go inward. So I sentenced myself to that. And so therefore, when I experienced abuse, sexual abuse by 2 male family members, I didn't tell. I didn't tell because somewhere within me, a programming had taken place. Doubt had entered my nervous system. Doubt entered my subconscious garden, my inner mind. And I didn't know, I knew what to do, what felt wrong, but I didn't feel that I could trust others to do what was right. Does that make sense? That I didn't feel like I could trust. And so therefore I kept that secret, hoping that the 2 family members would stop. And they did not stop. That's one of the things that I talk about in my memoir, that silence sometimes enables. And even though some people say, well, if you're silent, that means you agree with it. And some people think that if you're silent when I abuse you, that means you're okay with it. I can keep doing it. And honestly, silence can be a survival technique, that we are trying to prevent things from going haywire, chaos, complete chaos. A little girl, me, I didn't know if I told what that would end up being. Would I be stripped away from my mother? Would I feel like I felt in that Memphis apartment even worse, that I, wondered if I did something wrong? Even though I came out that inner seeking, I came out saying, no, you are wrong. Abusing someone is wrong. I could not speak up for myself because of that internal programming that takes place that can rob us of our very identity and why we are here on earth. I believe that we are spiritual beings, that we are here with a purpose, that we have these creative gifts within us, these talents, whether it's dancing, whether it's art, being able, if you are an art lover or someone who, does art, being able to duplicate what you see in nature, what you see with your very eyes, that within that art, you tell a story on that paper or whatever you're using, that you are telling a story just like our Creator tells our story, right? And so if you're following me, that I believe we are spirits here in human uniform, our eyes, our nose, our hair, our skin color, everything that we have is our costume, is what we are in for our earthly journey. And I believe everything, as in Romans 8:28, everything happens for a reason. Um, that we are here for reasons. And so after the abuse secret was out, I just kind of wondered, what am I here for? What am I good at? And I couldn't, I looked at my operations game and I said, well, maybe I want to be a doctor. And I was like, yeah, I'm not really feeling being a doctor. I keep, hitting the buzzard, trying to get a bone out and, hitting things. Maybe that's not the way to go. And I thought about my skates and I was like, well, I like the idea of skating, but I'm not a good skater. That wasn't something I ran towards, because you know what? Pain, when I think about it, pain was a great teacher for me. Pain was a great teacher. Being in that abusive relationship was a great teacher for me. And some would say that, you may have missed out on some things in life, but I definitely had a lot of caution when it came to not so much activities, but more of experiences and being around people. That, a lot of things I realized that not everything that someone does that looks enjoyable, or if they're doing and say they're enjoying it, it's not always enjoyable. I learned the importance of speaking up and using my voice. But after that whole incident, that whole abuse happened, I was trying to figure out who I was. And then one day, my mother told me about our father and him, dumping her books in the trash can, her nursing books. She had decided she wanted to be a nurse. And so he, if you've ever seen the burning if you've ever seen the burning bed, my mother, I remember we were sitting in our living room in our first house, and it was about a lady, and I don't want to spoil it for you, but she had experienced domestic violence, and really nobody came to her side. People didn't believe her. It was more like, married couples, they fight, no biggie, no big deal. And so she experienced a lot, including her books being thrown in the dumpster by her husband, and I believe burnt up, set on fire. And so my father threw my mom's book in the dumpster. Anytime that she wanted to study, he had something else to do. She wanted to learn how to drive. He said it would teach her. She never learned via him. And so he was not supportive in taking us on and doing things with us. And so, it just came to a point that she just said, I didn't go to nursing school. And I said right then and there that I am going to, he may have stopped you, but he will not stop me. He won't stop me. And I remember saying that in our first house. And so I set my career navigation to becoming a nurse. And I had no clue about nursing, no clue. Even when 16-year-old, I did a candy striping for a local hospital, and I did not like it. I mean, the nurses were like on the run, on the go all the time. When they were at the nurses station, they were charting. It just seemed like they were so busy and not able to adequately do their job. And so I continued on in nursing, and I definitely feel like I've learned so much from nursing, because I learned about growing old gracefully. I learned about resiliency. I learned about Pavlov's conditioning. I learned a lot. And I learned about how many people are spending a lot of their money, a lot of their energy, a lot of their time in the hospital, and realized a door opened that many people had emotional issues under their physical. There were some that I felt like wanted to be around others because they felt lonely, where people were putting people in the hospital, during the holidays, to be cared for. And just a lot that I saw, and it really opened my eyes, because the more people would tell me things, tell me what was going on. And often it was childhood trauma. And one of the things that I came out of abuse was prevention, the power of no. One of the other things I came out with is believing that no one has the right to take your life from you or assign an identity. No one can take your life, but assign an identity to you. That because I did this to you, then you should basically just become that type of person. Just be at my beck and call, or go into that profession where you are giving your body away. And I know no one can assign identity to you, and I want to make sure that's clear. It's more that we don't change, which I had put out recently. It's our beliefs about ourselves that change. That because someone did something to us, then we're like, oh, I must be this type of person. And I remember seeing when I was a young girl that I said, you have no right to take my life from me, that I decide who I want to be. And it really would frustrate me when I would see people just teasing and bullying, because I know how it feels to feel powerless, to feel forced to do something that you don't want to do, for someone to look down on you. Just those concepts, those principles of violation of the right to be human, the right to choose. And so I know why I disliked it, because I too was on that detour. I did a detour because I did not realize there was a part of me that probably felt that I was unworthy to be who God wanted me to be, that I was impatient because I didn't know who I was or what it is that I wanted to do. And luckily, nursing became an avenue. And as you know, I believe with life, with God, with our Creator, nothing is happenstance. There are no coincidences. And I believe that within the detours is something for us to learn about ourselves. We have within those detours something that can teach us who we are. And so I believe that we are not our problems, our experiences. We are that spirit that came here for reasons and for purposes. We have those gifts that we are here to express in the world. And I believe our divine purpose is to express love through those gifts. So how do we, coming full circle about where I've been as far as my over 20-year detour as a nurse, from where I've been to learning about God, learning about Jesus Christ, and seeing this man as a little girl when I needed it so much, seeing a man that respected people, that healed people, that loved people in the face of betrayal. How do you find your identity when you've doubted? In my 20s, I doubted my healing process. I wondered if I was too strict on people, if I had my standards set too high, that I had spent time where I was alone. And so when I've come, what I feel like now, being here where I'm at, I've come full circle to that quiet surrounding I had as a child, when I had time to think, when I had time to dismantle myths. Because there are thoughts and programming that come into you when you've been betrayed, when there is self-doubt, when there is confusion, there is programming inside of you that has gotten installed inside of your inner garden, inside of your mind, your subconscious mind, inside of your nervous system. And so how do you undo that programming that has taken place? And it's regardless of who put it in you, because nobody puts anything in you unless you first allow it to be there and allow it to come in. And I've been there and I've seen it. And I admitted there was a time where as a child that I stood firm on ground and I said, no, it came to me, a thought came to me and said, you're afraid of men now. And it was almost like my mind went warp speed into the future. And I said, and came back and I said, oh no, I can't do that. I can't be afraid of men. I can't do that. I can't live that way. Or, that you're trash or anything like that. And so we need time. How do you regain your identity? It's by remembering who you are, remembering that child in you, that curiosity, that joy, that trust, that adventure spirit. That is what we're so close to the spirit. So I think so intertwined as a child that something occurs in our life that we somehow unloosen a little bit. The spirit doesn't leave us, we leave the spirit. We leave home like in the prodigal son. And so who we are is still there. It's still there within us. And I believe it's about taking that quiet time that we have. And it doesn't have to be, to me, in a specific pose or a specific way. It's literally sitting down and really looking at who you are, asking yourself, because I believe when we ask, we will receive, we will get. Ask yourself, who am I? And you must understand that anything a child does, nothing a child does, nothing an adult does is a child's fault. Nothing an adult does is a child's fault. And so sit down and ask yourself, because I asked myself several years back, before a cycle of events took place that landed me here where I am now, that what am I here to do? And a voice that I've heard once before when I was 4 years old in a closet in the Memphis apartment came to me. And it automatically told me what I was here to do. Writing is the way that I'm going to make my imprint, my footprint here on earth. And so you are here for reasons. So you have to remember that we let nature remind you of how resilient and powerful you are. If you look out in nature, and trees were the things that I admired the most for their resiliency. That storm after storm, weather after weather, they still blossomed and remained even more beautiful the next year. So ask yourself, who am I? Know that we are made, and I believe we are made in the image of our Creator. Whether you say nature, a higher spirit, infinite intelligence, we are of image, a part of this higher power that keeps the sun, keeps us rotating in the universe, out in the universe, that keeps us rotating around the sun. Talk about amazing. Talk about our body that knows when our heartbeat needs to go, when we need to breathe, when we need to walk, our muscles contract. This power that is within us is the same power, is something of that power that created this world. So how can you tell me? How can we tell each other that we are weak? We are strong. We are resilient. So ask yourself, remind yourself of nature and who you are. What I've done is I've also, too, a third one that you can do is write down. Because I believe that with writing, there is time to reflect. Your mind is working with your hands, your muscles are contracting, you're breathing, and you're writing things down. And often what I would tell my clients as I worked as a nurse and a health educator, write it down. That's why they tell you to check your blood sugars if you're diabetic. Write it down, because when you write it, it is real. And when you write it, and just like when you say it, you're like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. So write down those things that you believe or someone has said about you, or whatever is holding you in captivity from your truth. I am trash. I am stupid. I should not have kept the secret. Are you blaming yourself? Remember that you were a child whenever it happened. Even if you went through being an older child, you were a child when it happened. And so I like to write one side truths, one side myths, or even other people's opinions, and really go through and look at that. Spend time on yourself, because how you know thyself is what is said, a popular quote, is by spending time with yourself and really undoing the programming by dismantling the myths and acknowledging and accepting the truth. I accept the fact that I was sexually abused by two family members. I accept the fact that my father was abusive towards my mother, and I saw that. I accept the fact that two family members, one used force, one used kindness. I accept also the fact that I believed in a higher power, that I read the Bible, that I felt like my abuse was not all that I was here to experience. And I challenged that to God, to this higher power. I know there is more for me to experience, and I deserve to experience it. Just like you deserve to experience your life, we hold on to our identity because we know no experiences change from who we are. They don't change us. We choose who we want to be and what we will allow in our subconscious mind. And so often as a child, what I would do is someone was mean to me or said something mean to me, I said, that's not mine, that is yours. If I knew I didn't do anything to him, it's not my baggage, that is yours. And I would mentally hand it back to them. So again, ask, who are you? Put it out there in the universe. Sit still, be quiet, and listen. Who are you? And I'm going to tell you, if it's a voice that comes back and says something negative or calls you outside of your name, that is not truth. That is not of God. That is not of love. That is not of higher power. That is not of infinite intelligence. That is not what makes the earth circulate around the sun. That is not the power that gives you food and light, electricity and darkness to sleep, and a body, an amazing body that you don't know what all has come into your body, and your immune system has fought it away. So who are you? What are you here to do? How will you make your mark into the world? Dismantle the myths and acknowledge and accept the truths by writing them down. Don't just trust you to say it, but you can say it after you've written it. Put it on paper and see, will it stand the test of truth? Because if you will be open and allow it, a lot of those myths will unravel themselves. You will not self-destruct when you write it down. You will receive clarity when you write it down. And then whatever you have found that is baggage, that is untrue, you give it back to the person. You don't have to see them. You don't have to write them a letter. If you want to, so be it. You can mentally say, this I give back to you, because this is not who I am. And once you unload all of that baggage, you will find the treasures, the harvest that is just waiting to be in abundance within you. The love, the compassion, the insight, the purpose, the peace that surpasses all understanding. All of those reside within you. And it's just covered up with all this stuff that you allowed to come inside of you that is unreal. And I truly believe, you guys, I want you to think about this. When we have nightmares and these daymares, that is garbage trying to come up out of you. And we keep saying, oh no. And the more that you fight it, the more that you have emotion towards it, the more it clings to you. We have to let it go. And the way we let it go, we acknowledge it, say, oh, okay, I see. Because I did that. And I'm going to share this one last thing with you. I was sitting in the car, and all of a sudden I started having these, it was almost like, the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, where it was like water. It was like not real, but it was like an image that was kind of like ice image or something. You guys know what I'm talking about. I'm trying to get what it is, but it's an image that comes, and it came to me about someone being hitting somebody in the driver's side, hitting somebody else. And I've had this before when I lived in St. Louis. And it was almost like the person was hitting the person in the passenger seat. And I said, and I almost took that in and I said, wait a minute, this seems familiar. I said, that's not me. I haven't had that to happen. And I thought about it and I wondered if it was what my mother had experienced. And so one day I asked her, before I go, Mom, hey, I forgot, I wanted to ask you something. I said, did this happen to you? Would you be in the passenger seat and he would hit you, our dad would hit you in the passenger seat? She said, yes, that happened. I said, oh my goodness, that's a memory that is coming to me. And that I was sitting in the back seat when it happened. She said, yes, she confirmed it. So before I took it on to myself, I actually had to say, that's no place in me. That didn't happen to me. So where did it happen at? And we have to do that with those memories. We have to wait. We have to put it in its rightful place, because that time that I told my mom that, you guys, guess what happened? That memory fell into its rightful place. I haven't had the memory again. And that's the second time that has happened to me that I know of before. The first time was when I thought I was beating someone else up. And my mom told me, no, you were actually getting beat up when I was a little girl by my half-sister. And once she told me the truth, it had no place in me anymore. So all of this stuff that keeps going over and over in your head, think about it. It may be stuff, more than likely, that does not belong to you. So how do you get rid of it? You face it, you acknowledge it, you dismantle it, you talk about it, you write about it, and you get your life in order, meaning acknowledge who you are, what you're here to do, the gifts that you have within you, and hand that baggage back to the people that it belonged to, because they are accountable for their pain and you are accountable for all of this stuff that you allowed to come into you. You break the generational cycle of pain by creating a generational cycle of love. You remember who you are. This is Timika Chambers with Create a Generational Love Cycle. Find me on my website, TamikaSChambers.com, Twitter, Instagram, same name. I'm hoping that you had a very great Thanksgiving. Happy holiday season to you. I hope that you will be able to get plenty of rest before the new year, 2022. I almost forgot. 2022 is on the rise. And I hope that you have a great holiday season. I'll look forward to sharing a message with you next week. Until next time, Timika Chambers.